Go deeper.
Well, I've been thinking about that a lot. And Edgar Casey says that whatever makes you more humble, more kind, more gentle, more compassionate, he says that those are the fruits of the Spirit, and those are aligning you with God's will. And he says all of those things in your life that encourage you to develop and to practice the fruits of the Spirit, that's the real purpose of our lives. It's many things. It's an adventure. Our life's an adventure. It's an education. It's a workshop. It's fun. It can be an exploration. It can be growth. Many, many things. But I think Casey eloquently summarized a lot of things, and that was one of them. What is God's will? What does God want us to be doing? What is the purpose? Why were we here? And a lot of different people say lots of different things, but I think he's right in that it's not a simple answer that's complicated, and it depends on the person, and each one has a little bit different agenda or contract in this lifetime. Very interesting. So Casey talked a lot about death and dying, and he talked to a lot of souls that got confused and were wandering around the earth and didn't know what to do, and he helped them when he was entering and exiting his trances, his altered states. So they recorded, and a lot of his readings are about death and dying. He has probably the most comprehensive and easiest to understand ideas on death and dying and purpose in life. So God wants us to grow. He wants us to have fun. He wants to learn. He wants us to experience. And that's the agenda. That's the goal in our lives, I think. And people get confused. They get distracted. They get obsessed by things. And it's not about worldly things. It's not about money. It's not about prestige or honor. It's about the simple things. And that's what Jesus taught about. He said it's the meek who will inherit the earth. He says it's not the proud, obnoxious, or pushy, or strongest. He says it's about the people who learn the fruits of the Spirit, which is meekness, kindness, compassion, gentleness. And I think he's right.
Good answer.
Obviously, I've been thinking about this a lot. Because I want to learn that lesson, whatever this is I'm supposed to be learning right now. I don't want to do it again. I want to figure this out. Casey had a lot of examples of why bad things happen to good people, and I realized it probably applies to me. He says, for instance, this is one example. He says, twins were born, and one was blind and one was not blind. And they asked Casey, why? Why does this twin blind? He says, well, in the past incarnations, they were twins also. And their job, they were in marauders. They were not good people at all. And their job for their king was to put the eyes out of their enemies. He says, when one brother did it as a job, he didn't enjoy it. He says, the other brother enjoyed it. He started enjoying it. And he said, this is the brother who needed to learn the lesson. So this lifetime, he was blind to experience this, what he did and why that's a bad thing. He says, the goal of reincarnation is not equality or vengeance or justice or to make things right. The goal of reincarnation is for people to learn. That makes a lot of sense. And then I realized another really obvious thing about Casey's life. Casey was a good example of a good person. And Edgar Casey had a lot of trouble with finances. a lot of trouble with finances, especially if he gave readings for somebody to make money. It would cause him physical pain and he would suffer a lot. And everybody misinterprets this. They think that is because if you use your psychic abilities for money, you're going to suffer and spend, but this is not true. This is not true at all. Because another reading for Casey on himself, he said even though Casey was a good person, he was not a good person in every lifetime. In a past lifetime, he was a riverboat gambler and not a nice person. And he used his psychic abilities. He had them then. He used his psychic abilities to cheat at cards and to take advantage of women.
Oh.
He says, so the people who came to him in the lifetime we know him as Casey were basically connected to that lifetime when he was not a good person. And the reason he had trouble with finances was because he abused his abilities in that lifetime. It was his personal karmic debt he was dealing with. And this was not to say that using psychic abilities doesn't allow you to make abundance in your life, but that's how people misinterpret it. They think you're not supposed to use your psychic abilities to have abundance. But that's as a misinterpretation because they didn't understand Casey's reincarnational pattern and what he was going through and the lessons he was learning. So this, what I'm going through, most likely has something to do with a past life, a reincarnational thing that I'm learning a lesson. And it could be many things. I don't know what it is. One of the things I do know is I overcompensated in my lifetime because I always had a feeling I wasn't a good boy, always. And so I tried really hard to be a good boy. And that's why you guys think I'm a good boy. I'm not a good boy. I had a past life I was a bad boy. And in this life, I'm trying to compensate by being a good boy. That's why I had those feelings. Now, the problem is our memories are not good enough to remember past lives clearly the way Casey did. Right? We just get hints and shadows and clues. But if we understood and we could see our past lives, then we'd know more clearly. It'd be easy to understand why our past life, what past life has this influence, and more clearly what lesson we're trying to learn. So when you say bad things happen to good people, that's a very shallow thing to see. You have to look at it much deeper in multiple timelines, multiple lives, and that person's deep past, and what past life has an influence that is causing this karmic thing. And the other important thing is to remember it's not punishment, it's for learning. We have to learn by doing this. Life is like a workshop many times. You go to school, the teacher teaches you something, and you got to go home and do your worksheet. You got to do the lessons. And that's what the karmic thing is often, is doing the lessons. You actually have to do it in practice, like riding a bicycle. You can't just read about riding a bicycle, you have to do it. And with karmic debt, it's something you have to do to learn. You have to experience it. You can't just read about it. So those are the dots that are connecting to me. So I suspect I was a bad boy, and now I'm experiencing something to make me grow and learn. And I just want to make sure I do a good job of that because I don't like this.
Yeah.